Hello, I'm Miss Ginger of Greenhouse Preschool, and today I'll be reading Horton Hears a Who by Dr. Suess. Such a wonderful classic about how important it is to stand up for the little ones who need your help. On the 15th of May, in the jungle of Newell, in the heat of the day, in the cool of the pool, Horton the Elephant was splashing, enjoying the jungle's great joys, when Horton the Elephant heard a small noise. So, Horton stopped splashing, and he looked towards the sound. "That's funny," thought Horton. "There's no one around." And then he heard it again, just a very faint yelp, as if some very tiny person was calling for help. "I'll help you," said Horton. "But who are you? Where?" He looked and he looked, but he could see nothing there, but a small speck of dust floating around in the air. Could that be it? "I say," murmured Horton, "I've never heard tell of a small speck of dust that is able to yell. So you know what I think? Why, I think that there must be someone on top of that small speck of dust. Some sort of a creature of very small size, too small to be seen by an elephant's eyes. Some poor little person who's just shaking with fear that he'll blow into the pool. He has no way to steer. Well, I'll just have to save him, because after all, a person's a person, no matter how small." So gently and using the greatest of care, Horton the Elephant stretched his great trunk through the air, and he lifted the dust speck, and he carried it over, and he placed it down gently on a very soft clover. "Humph!" humphed a voice. It was a sour kangaroo. And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, "Humph!" too. "Why, that speck is as small as the head of a pin. A person on that? Why, there never has been." "Believe me," said Horton, "I tell you sincerely, my ears are quite keen and I heard him quite clearly. I know there's a person down there, and what's more, quite likely there's two, even three, even four. Quite likely a family for all that we know, a family with children just starting to grow. So please," Horton said, "as a favor to me, try not to disturb them. Please just let them be." "Well, I think you're a fool," said the sour kangaroo, and the young kangaroo in her pouch said, "Me too. You're the biggest blame fool in the jungle of Newell," and the kangaroos plunged into the cool of the pool. "What terrible splashing," the elephant frowned. "I can't let my very small persons get drowned. I've got to protect them. I'm bigger than they." So he plucked up the clover, and Horton hurried away. Through the high jungle treetops, the news spread quickly. "He talks to a dust speck. He's out of his head. Just look at him walk with that speck on that flower." And Horton walked, worrying, for almost an hour. "Should I put the speck down?" Horton thought with alarm. "Well, if I do, these very small persons might come to great harm. I can't put it down, and I won't. After all, a person's a person, no matter how small." And then Horton stopped walking, 'cause the speck voice was talking. The voice was so faint he could just barely hear it. "Speak up, friend," said Horton, and he put his ear near it. "My friend," came the voice. "You're a very fine friend. You've helped all us folks on this dust speck no end. You've saved all our houses, our ceilings and floors. You've saved all our churches and grocery stores." "You mean," Horton gasped, "you have buildings there too?" "Oh yes," piped the voice. "We most certainly do." "I know," called the voice. "I'm too small to be seen, but I am the mayor of a town that is friendly and clean. Our buildings to you would seem terribly small, but to us, who aren't big, they are wonderfully tall. My town is called Whoville, for I am a Who, and we Whos are all thankful and grateful to you." And Horton called back to the mayor of the town, "You're safe now. Don't worry. I won't let you down." But just as he spoke to the mayor of the speck, 3 big jungle monkeys climbed up Horton's neck. They were the Wickersham brothers, and they came shouting, "What rot! This elephant is talking to whos who are not. There aren't any who's, and they don't have a mayor, and we're going to stop all this nonsense. So there. And then they snatched Horton's clover, and they carried it off to a black-bottomed eagle named Vlad Vladikov, a mighty strong eagle of very swift wing, and they said, "Will you kindly get rid of this thing?" And before the poor elephant could even speak, that eagle flew off with the clover in his beak. All that late afternoon and far into the night, that black-bottomed bird flapped his wings in fast flight, while Horton chased after with groans over stones that tattered his toenails and battered his bones, and he begged, "Please, don't harm all my little folks who have just as much right as us bigger folks do." But far, far beyond him, that eagle kept flapping, and over his shoulder called back, "Quit your yapping. I'll fly the night through. I'm a bird. I don't mind it. And I'll hide this tomorrow where you'll never find it." And at 6:56 the next morning he did it. It sure was a terrible place that he hid it. He let that small clover drop somewhere inside of a great patch of clovers 100 miles wide. "Find that," sneered the bird, "but I think you will fail." And he left with a flip of his black-bottomed tail. "I shall find it," said Horton. "I'll find it or bust. I'll find my friends on that small speck of dust." And clover by clover by clover with care, he picked up and searched them and called, "Are you there?" But clover by clover by clover he found the one that he sought for was just not around. And by noon, poor old Horton, more dead than alive, had picked, searched, and piled up 9,005. And then on through the afternoon, hour after hour, until he found them at last on the 3,000,000th flower. "My friends," cried the elephant, "do tell me, do tell. Are you safe? Are you sound? Are you whole? Are you well?" And from down on the speck again came the voice of the mayor. "We've really had trouble, much more than our share. When that black-bottomed birdie let go and we dropped, we landed so hard that all our clocks have stopped. Our teapots are broken, our rocking chairs smashed. All of our bicycle tires blew up when we crashed. So Horton, please," pleaded the voice of the mayor, "will you stick by us who's while we are making repairs?" "Of course," Horton answered. "Of course I will stick. I will stick by you small folks through thin and through thick." "Humph," humphed a voice. "For almost 2 days you've run wild and insisted on chatting with persons who've never existed. Such carryings on in our peaceable jungle. Well, we've had quite enough of your bellowing bungle, and I'm here to state," snapped the big kangaroo, "that your silly nonsensical game is all through." And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, "Me too." With the help of the Wickersham brothers and dozens of Wickersham uncles and Wickersham cousins and Wickersham in-laws whose help I've engaged, you are going to be roped and you're going to be caged. And as for that dust speck, that we will boil in a hot steaming kettle of bezelnut oil." "Boil it?" gasped Horton. "Oh, that you can't do. It's all full of persons. I'll prove it to you." "Mr. Mayor," Horton called. "Mr. Mayor, you've got to prove now that you really are there. So, call a big meeting, get everyone out, make every who holler, make every who shout, make every who scream. If you don't, every who is going to end up in a bezelnut stew." And down on the dust speck, the scared little mayor quick called a big meeting in the Whoville town square, and his people called loudly. They cried out in fear, "We are here! We are here! We are here! We are here!" The elephant smiled. "Well, that was clear as a bell. You kangaroos surely heard that very well." "All I heard," snapped the big kangaroo, "was the breeze, and the faint sound of the wind through the far distant trees. I heard no small voices, and you didn't either." And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, "Me neither." "Grab him," the kangaroos shouted, "and cage the big dope. Lasso his tummy with 10 miles of rope. Tie the knots tight so he'll never shake loose. And dunk that dumb speck in the beezelnut juice. Horton fought back with great vigor and vim, but the Wickersham gang was too many for him. They beat him, they mauled him, they started to haul him into his cage, but he managed to call to the mayor, "Don't give up! I believe in you all! A person's a person, no matter how small! And if you very small persons will not have to die if you make yourselves heard. So come on now and try!" The mayor grabbed a tom-tom and he started to whack it. And all over Whoville they whipped up a racket. They rattled tin kettles, they beat on brass pans, on garbage pail tops and on old cranberry cans. They blew on bazookas and blasted great toots, on clarinets, oompas and boompas and flutes. Great gusts of loud racket rang high through the air. They rattled and shook the whole sky. And the mayor called up through the howling mad hullabaloo, "Hey, Horton, how's this? Is our sound coming through?" And Horton called back, "I can hear you just fine, but the kangaroo's ears aren't as strong as mine. They don't hear a thing. Are you sure all your boys are doing their best? Are they all making their noise? Are you sure every who down in Whoville is working? Quick, look through your town. Is anyone shirking?" Through the town rushed the mayor from the east to the west, but everyone seemed to be doing their best. Everyone seemed to be yipping or yapping, yapping or yipping. Everyone seemed to be beeping or bipping. But it wasn't enough, all this ruckus and roar. He had to find someone to help him make more. He raced through each building and he searched floor to floor. And just as he felt he was getting nowhere and almost about to give up in despair, he suddenly burst through a door, and the mayor discovered one shirker, quite hidden away, in the Fairfax Apartments, apartment 12J. A very small shirker named Jojo was just standing, and bouncing a yo-yo, not making a sound, not a yip, not a chirp. And the mayor rushed in and grabbed the young twerp, and he climbed with the lad up the Eiffelberg Tower. "This," cried the mayor, "this is your town's greatest hour, darkest hour. The time for all who's who have blood that is red to come to the aid of their country," he said. "We've got to make noise in greater amounts, so open your mouth, kid, 'cause every voice counts." And then he spoke as he climbed, and when they got to the top, the kid cleared her throat and she shouted out, "Yup!" And that yop, that one small extra yop, put it over. Finally, at last, from the speck on that clover, their voices were heard. They rang out clear and clean, and the elephant smiled. "Do you see what I mean? They proved they are persons, no matter how small, and their whole world was saved by the smallest of all." "How true, yes, how true," said the big kangaroo. "I'm sorry. You know what I'm planning to do? From now on, I'm going to protect them with you." And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, "Me too." And from sun in the summer to rain when it's fallish, they protected them. And everyone, no matter how smallish. The end. Thank you for listening.